Here's my latest repair project. I have a racebox mini. I was one of the first Kickstarter people that got one of these for $100. I bought it and never used it. I don't like it. I don't like the way it worked because it required my cell phone to be able to record the data. It's not a standalone unit. It's a Bluetooth connection between the phone and the racebox, and that made it very unuseful. I had to mount my phone on the bike to use it, so I never used it. I used it one time to confirm it worked, and then it sat for a couple years. I hadn't been charging it. The problem is the battery goes dead because there's not an on-off button. That's another thing I don't like about the racebox. This is an LED indicator light, turns blue, turns red for charging. Anyway, what I had before was the battery went dead, so I thought I'll replace the battery, and okay, batteries are about $15, not terribly expensive. Unfortunately, I bought a battery. It had a pigtail on it, so I had to modify this board. I bought a JST connector, soldered it on, plugged it into the battery, and lo and behold, this would not power on. Nothing. Plugged it into USB to charge it up. Nothing. Dead as a doornail. The LED light does not light up, doesn't show up on the phone app. It was dead. Battery works. Battery is good. So I decided, okay, I need to repair it. So I bought a Racebox Micro. This is a different product, but this one has onboard memory, so you don't have to have an iPhone to use it. It does have a button on it to start and stop it, and again, you don't have to have it connected to the phone, which is exactly what I was looking for before. So I bought the Micro. It comes in this small case, so I like the original case this is in because it mounts on the bike with Velcro on the bottom. It has 4 magnets, can also hold it to a metallic surface, so this is garbage. Time to throw that away. Left with that. Battery fits nicely into the case the way it's molded. The Micro, I think I can mount it on top of the battery with some high bond tape. I had to solder on pigtails here. When the battery plugs into the board, it's always powered on. That's something I do not like about this design. I want to turn it off when I'm not using it. Drains the battery, doesn't do a good job. I let this sit for 2 years, battery's toast. I had to find some way to recharge the battery, so I soldered on a pigtail onto the board so it can connect to the battery, and it hangs out of the case. This was a USB-C connector. Plug the cable in, charge it up. That doesn't work because there's no charger built into this, to my knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong. So I put the JST connector on here, and I'll get a USB cable that will plug into that for RC drones. So I have a way to charge it up. It's not waterproof. Maybe I'll make a silicone plug or something like that to close it off. But once I get some tape in there, I will mount it up. This will go back together, and then I have a unit I can mount on the bike and use. Anyway, I have to figure out how to mount the battery, mount this. I also need some way, because it has a power, well, not a power button, but a button you press to start and stop. Can you hear it? So I need some way to make a little push rod, something that will be able to press that from the outside of the housing. There's 4 LEDs in here that light up that give indication of what the unit is doing. There's no way to see it through the top of the case. Need to figure that out next. Anyway, the unit does power up. This battery connects into the little pigtail that I put on. And then I have my charging lead. So, because I will not be able to see this in the future, this video is my vlog diary of what the hell I did here to repair this. So these units, I could have bought a new one for about 300 bucks. This was about 110 for the small board. Anyway, I'm a cheapskate, so that's my deal for now. Let me get that mounted up and finish reassembling this, and we'll go out and try it out. I think I have identified problem number 2 with my design. So I put the racebox micro in upside down in the top case. And if we view this from the side, it sticks up just a little bit. It's too tall. Here's the problem. I was going to put some adhesive between this cover and this case to kind of mount things, keep it from moving around, a little thin little piece of rubber, but this is too tall. There's not enough room. So the battery, same thing. I need to mount it with some tape underneath, but if I do that, again, this battery is going to be probably not enough clearance. So if we look at the battery here, it's a little below the surface, this rubber gasket. That one hangs down just a little bit. I don't think there's enough room to stack everything together here. If this was just a few millimeters skinnier, maybe. I'm not sure. I think I have a packaging problem. Okay, this is a trial mock-up fix. These are GoPro mount adhesive. Thin. This is what I was planning to mount the battery using, with some of these thin pads. And then put the GoPro mount on top of the battery, and then put the racebox on top of that to secure everything. Viewing this from the side, now that side sticks up, and that side sticks up. That sandwich is too thick by probably the thickness of 2 pads. Not sure what to do to fix that. Couple theories. Maybe I can make this gasket taller. Maybe I can make a fake gasket that's a couple millimeters thicker. Option 1. Option 2. Maybe the racebox mini, put it on a belt sander. Sand the top and bottom down. Maybe I can get it a little thinner. That bottom plate's about 1 millimeter too thick. Maybe I could reduce that by half. It's still not enough. I don't know. I think packaging wise, I am stuck like Chuck. So maybe thinner adhesive mounts, maybe. Maybe the paper and the plastic is taking up extra space. That'll be okay if I remove it. I don't know. This, it's so close to working. I mounted the battery with 1 pad, and I'm just stacking these and testing how well this will fit. And I can almost get it down there, but you can see here, it's just a little bit too much of a gap. And that's not even with putting the other pad under the racebox. So that's not going to work. Even if I could slim this down, slim that down, this Big Mac is not going to fit in the bag. Okay. this is quite a pickle. So I took the amount of the battery. That was really hard to get off too. Did not want to unstick. I thought, well, maybe I could put these side by side. Given the shape of everything, maybe, but problem is the battery won't fit in. Everything's just too wide to fit into the box. The other problem is the magnets at the four corners. The battery won't fit in because these are occupying some space. I could cut this off. That is something I don't use. It is a screw mount for like using a GoPro mount or whatever to fix the housing to the motorcycle itself. I'm going to use a Velcro on this surface. Don't need that. I could cut it off to buy some space, but those magnets up in the corners are not movable, and the battery overhangs them. So I can't use the entire space I have. The other problem is these tabs on the racebox micro. I would have to cut them off. I don't see any other way to accomplish this. The other possibility here, sorry to make this so long, is maybe I can mount the battery up on the top, and maybe that somehow buys me some of the space here. What I mean is the magnets don't come to the top of the gasket. So as long as the battery doesn't hang down below this parting line, it might clear the magnets. So the battery would be hanging from the ceiling instead of gravity against the bottom. But maybe that's the other possibility here. Trying to make some space here by removing features. There was that little black plastic tab right here. You can sort of see it. I razor bladed it off, so hopefully without that tab sticking up, I can get closer to the back of the housing. I'm going to try to shave these bosses down a little bit. This gives it a lot of strength, so I don't want to take too much off, but anything I can do to get a little bit closer to the back, I need to do that. Okay, guillotined those features off. Little bit closer to the back. There's still, those bosses are still in place a little bit. Okay, my next move was to take a razor blade on the side of each of these little standoffs, and I cut off the little bosses that were on the side. That's those little guys there. So that gets me a little more room left to right by shaving those off. Did the same thing with the back ones. Smoothed out the bottom as best I can and just try to make room. I think this guy here needs to come off, but I don't know if there's anything to gain by chopping that off. Next, I am taking the razor blade and trying to cut the wings off and do both sides, try to make this a little bit skinnier. Okay, there's one side razor bladed off. Now there's still a little bit of a tab sticking out on the side. The reason is there's these little tabs that lock into that base plate. If I cut it off flush with the side of the box, there would be nothing for it to clip onto. Let me see if I can. Really hard to. It's really hard to focus on this, but you'll see that little tab in there, and it needs something on the outside to clip onto, so I can't flush cut it. there's a second tab on the left, and then there's that tab, the center on it, right there in the middle, and then the one right next to it. Same thing on the other side. Let's see, that rectangle right by the tab, and then the one under the battery there, there's two of them. So if I cut that off flush, it's going to cut right into that. See the line? Cuts right through it. So we have to essentially right here, my cut mark is the bottom of this groove here that leaves a little bit around here, so there's something for the case to snap together with. Okay, the tabs are removed from the sides. Not focusing well. Anyway, the outline is visible. Hopefully that makes the box a little skinnier to fit into the space we have. Again, I took the tabs off the posts, trying to make a little more real estate. The tabs there at the end, I shaved those as well, so I can slide things a little further to the back. I forgot to start up the video before I started putting this together, so I'll try to catch up here. These posts right here, you'll notice they're half circles now. I cut them in half to create a gap for the battery. Same thing, that one up at the top, half circle, right there. Cut it with the Dremel with the wheel to get some clearance. And again, it leaves just enough gap to fit the battery. With that done, I did have to raise the battery. So if you look from the side, you'll see underneath this is a foam block that I put on with double stick tape. It's roughly the same height as the racebox there. It also clears this mount back here because it's raised. I did have to cut that back just a little bit, but I'm not sure if the lid is going to fit on with everything in place. I did try to put it on and it was not fitting because this little guy here, it sticks down and it hits the racebox when I try to place it on. So I will demonstrate here. It doesn't quite sit right, not enough room. I'm gonna have to go back and Dremel this off, try to get it to fit flat. But that is the progress so far. Hopefully everything is going to fit in place, but we're not quite there yet. Double stick tape here on the battery, double stick tape holding the racebox down, and then the little button here for the reset button. I need to put some kind of way to click that through the upper case. Little closer now. Here is a near finished product. I have power. See, the blue LED is lit. It is connected to my cell phone. That's what that means. I have the little pigtail here that wires into the racebox, and that one goes to a charger. So this is a USB charger I got off Amazon. It has the charging board in it, and it just simply plugs into, well, essentially the battery is connected to two connectors that I wired into the racebox and soldered on. This one's for charging. That's just the battery connection to the racebox. There's no on-off switch. This will go into low power mode, I guess, at some point, and it's just in standby perpetually as long as you keep it charged. So I did not have room to build a charging board or add a charging board inside the housing here. It's just, it doesn't have space for that. So I went with an external solution. Anyway, what I don't like is this connector. It's really difficult to disconnect. I almost feel like I'm gonna break it. We'll see how often I have to charge it. Maybe that's an issue, maybe it's not. I may need to cut into this and put something a little more user-friendly. But anyway, I at least have a way to charge the battery and keep this operational. Next piece is to put the top on, seal everything up. I hate that this race box can't be turned off. It just drives me crazy to see the light flashing all the time. It's never truly off. And it's good for about 40 days before you have to recharge it completely. Oh well, I have a usable race box. Well, once I put the clamshell back on. Okay, ready to put the cover back on. I skipped the steps so you don't see it, but there was a rib, like these two ribs here, that extended down from here. I cut that off with a Dremel. Also, we had this post that was in here that stuck up to about here. I ground that off completely so that it will clear. The whole point of having to do that is before, when that post was on there, it was hitting the race box when I tried to put the cover on. I could not do it. Now it clears and we can put the cover back on with the 4 screws that are putting the cover back on. The screws stick up. Something I need to do before I put the Velcro on is cut out so I can get to the screws once the Velcro patch is placed over this. So I'm going to need to make a template to do that. But for right now, I just need to install the screws. Okay, the cover is back on. Everything seats up nice. Our rubber seal all the way around. I know this is kind of lame having the pigtail hang out, but that's the only way to charge what's inside. The little clear window on top, I can see that blue light inside is flashing, so I know the unit still is not completely discharged, so that's a little bit of a visual indicator. Also, if I look through the hole here, you can kind of see the blue light is flashing. That tells you it's alive, because otherwise there's no way to turn this thing on or off. The way it's set up right now, I can't press the button to start timing a lap. I have to trigger it from my cell phone. That is something I would like to add, but I'm gonna have to come up with a design to do that. I need some sort of button that sticks through the outer console. Like there's a hole here, I need a post or a button, something that I can place there. But that's a future thing. I need to find out if this thing's worth a darn as far as timing laps. But get a Velcro pad on, and this is in a condition when I can actually go out and start testing and see if it functions. Time to make a Velcro template. Okay, I took this outdoors so that it could get a fix on a satellite, and I could see the I could see the blue light, but at an angle, I can't see if the green light for the satellite fix is on. But if I look through the hole, I can see that the green light is lit. And that's my indication it has a fix on the satellite. So I'd like a better visual from external, but I can at least see the LEDs. Sorry, focus isn't very good here. Okay, what I'm doing here is simple piece of paper. I'm gonna lay it over the race box and cut it out with scissors to fit. I'm literally just pressing the paper against the bottom of the race box here. There's a raised edge here. I'm trying to mark the paper with pressure. There are also mounting holes, etc. here, so I'm literally kind of scoring the paper to make a template. Okay, this is pretty crude. It's just a piece of paper cut out. I put pen holes in where the little screws are located, and now I just kind of need to cut out the template. This is what's going to be used to place the holes on the Velcro pad. because we have to make a Velcro pad to put on the race box for mounting. I have cut out my Velcro. I transferred my template, the paper one, so they'll locate the holes. I need to somehow cut out the holes. Don't know how to do that. I don't have a hole punch. This is thick Velcro with like adhesive on it, clogging things. I almost want a soldering iron to just burn holes through this. Anyway, I need to figure that out. But to the point where I just need that Velcro pad. So I rethought my game plan here. Instead of cutting holes, I just scissored it around the edges and cut it out that way. Because on the bottom of the box, who cares, right? Fit it on. The only point of this is to make sure that we can get to the screws with the screwdriver, whoops, upside down, with the Velcro in place. That should accomplish that goal. Doesn't look pretty, but that side goes down, nobody's gonna see it. I don't care. Anyway, we're done essentially. Just stick this on, put the Velcro on the bike. That's it, we're ready to test. Peeled the other Velcro off, but access to screws, can get to the mount if needed. I don't plan to use it. Good to go.